Hey Corey,
Hey man, welcome out.
what's up, man?
Dude, living life in my tungsten lighting living room.
Sweet.
And yeah, dude, sitting on the couch and all the kids are in bed and my wife is basically in bed as well. And this is what I do.
Cool. So, give me a little overview on your family. So, just so you guys know who are listening, this is Corey. How would you say your last name? Romeiser?
Yeah, that's exactly it, dude.
Okay, I got it right. And give us a brief. Who are you? Like family, work, um, basic family, location, and work for now,
Okay.
and then we'll
Yeah.
get into everything else.
Yeah. So, like I said, my name's Cory Romeiser. I live in Nashville, Indiana, which is a small town in southern Indiana. A lot of us just call it Brown County because our town, it's got Nashville has three stoplights, and the rest of the county has none. And so that's an overlay,
That's
that's
cool.
an idea of the size of our setup. And then I've been married we just celebrated, I believe, our sixth, or I guess we're now, oh shoot.
Oh crap.
I'm pretty sure it's 6 years. Our 6 year anniversary back on January 27th um, with my wife Olivia. And we have two children, Davy and Daniel. Davy just turned 3, and yesterday Daniel turned 1. And then
Happy birthday.
yeah, and then she's cooking another one right now. So
All right.
the
Is Davy a boy or girl?
Davy's a boy.
Okay, two
His name
boys.
is, yeah, we got Davy Grace and Daniel Harris, which Harris also means Grace. And a little fun fact about Davy's name, which is just funny. Uh, he got his name kind of from a joke. Like we like originally were like we just didn't know, or actually it was before Olivia was ever pregnant. Um, we were driving one day and I was like, Davy Grace, what a pretty name. And she was like, that name is hideous. And I was just like, I just thought it was like a stupid, funny name. And then when we didn't know the gender, we just kept calling it Davy Grace. And I was like, oh, little Davy Grace. And Olivia was like, no, we're not doing Davy Grace. And then all of our friends, like everybody was like Davy Grace. That's it. It just rolls off the tongue. That is the name. And like someone even like put it up on like a board of like their like prayer board in their house of like things to pray for, like Davy Grace, pray for little Davy Grace. And and then all of a sudden there was a shift and it was like, dang it, dude. Like I've always loved the character of David, and then also grace is kind of like the foundation of like everything that I believe in. And
Of all
so
things.
yeah, and so I was like, dang dude, that's kind of sick, like David Grace, like I love it. And
That's cool.
and I'm a fan of redeeming not the norm. And so Grace is typically more of like a feminine name, but I think it's cool to kind of like switch it up and be like, it can be whatever we call it to be. And so David Grace is Davy's name, and then we have Daniel and Harris, which it's kind of like spelled slightly different than I think the normal way. But it also means grace. So we got two middle name Grace boys.
That's
So
good.
it's cool.
That's
And
cool.
then it's a bit of a rabbit trail, but it was worth it, for my son.
Oh yeah. And then your
uh
your new one, do you know what the gender is?
we don't yet.
And
Yeah.
no names
So
yet, so that's a whole new adventure.
yeah, we'll figure it out. If it's a girl, I think we pretty much like we've had like a name we've been sitting on, and then if it's a boy, then this we'll see. Yeah.
That's cool. And
Um
we ended up with three boys, and our third one was once I found out he was a boy. Um, I like the band Thrice. That wasn't why we named him
mhm,
Thrice.
nice.
The word thrice was like, the crow, the crow went off thrice, or what do you call it? The rooster crowed thrice in
Hmm.
like the old English.
Yeah.
But so that's where it's kind of in your consciousness, and then like the band, but then the thing that occurred to me was my first two boys were such a blessing that if I got a third boy, like I'm thrice blessed. And that
Dang,
became his name, like just that
that's kind
thought.
of sick.
Yeah, it was cool. It was
Yeah.
cool.
I mean,
And
it's
he's,
definitely a unique name and
yeah.
just, yeah, I dig it.
And people are like, is that because of the band thrice? I'm like, I know the band thrice, but it's not really why he got the
Yeah.
name.
You're like, no, dude,
But
he was just a third kid. So we were like, round 3.
yeah, but they were really, the first two were such a blessing. And then the funny thing is the third one it has been the toughest.
Really?
So we're thrice blessed with the beast.
Yeah, that's good. I
So
don't, I don't know if like my children are challenging or not. Yeah, Davy, he's wild. But also like in the best way. Like he's very similar, like there's a lot of similarities in myself of like he just loves to experience the joys of life and like run and jump as far as he can and as high as he can and like fall down and get back up and just run and go. And that's also like kind of my personality is like I'm all about like running and jumping and doing something wild. And now we have young Daniel and he's kind of still developing on like what this little boy is going to be like. uh
how old is
and
he?
he just turned 1.
Okay,
And
yeah.
so
So you don't really know a whole lot yet.
yeah, I know that's
Unlike
kind of
behavior.
it's a crazy thing, when you have children, like like it's like they come out and you're like, yes, I love them, and like it's amazing, but it's also like I've known this child for 2 days, or
Yeah.
like there's that like weird thing that like you've only known them for such a short amount of time, and like Daniel's like I've only known this kid for a year, like that seems like I know lots of people way longer,
Yeah.
but it's like I still love him, still stoked on him, and
But
but there's
what's really interesting is like the first time you see them, you're the first person that's seeing them
yeah,
besides their mom.
yeah.
And like how you feel about them in that moment is like good or bad is like the first thing anyone's feeling about them, which is really interesting.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like
with Daniel. Oh
my
yeah,
second guy had like a really small little chin. I'm like, that's a weird little chin. I'm like,
yeah.
but he's damn cute still. And so like obviously I totally loved him immediately as well.
Hmm.
But I know some parents feel like, they didn't love them right away. It took them some processing. I was kind of a baby fanatic from the beginning. My parents had babies for like, that's another story I'll probably tell at some point, but I was pretty easy to fall in love with my kids,
Yeah.
and I really do. But
Hmm.
for some people, it's definitely more of a challenge because they don't have that experience or they don't have
Yeah.
any reference point of how to like connect with a baby.
Yeah, that was a little bit of me of like I I was just never around babies growing up, and so I didn't have a lot of context of like how to hold them or how to do anything. And
How to feel
like
confident.
yeah, like I'd changed one diaper before Davy in my entire life, and it was my sister. She had a little baby, and it was like maybe a few years before I had Davy, and the one diaper I changed did not go well either. It was like she was crying, and I was like, "This sucks for the both of us, man. Like we're gonna figure this out,"
Yeah.
and it just didn't go great. But now it's no big deal. I can do it all day. But
And
but yeah,
so for reference for anyone listening, how old are you, by the way?
I just turned 30 this year. January 30th, I turned 30. So
Does that technically make you a millennial?
uh
You're
I don't
like,
know.
I'm not sure.
I get. I think
Somewhere in that
I feel like
category.
the millennial thing, it was like it like just kind of like morphed and like adopted way more people than it like originally started with.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, whatever. I guess you guys are millennials too. And it just like keeps growing. And
My
so I don't know.
generation's funny. They like had a name for us, like Generation X, and then later they kind of forgot, and they're like,
Yeah.
we don't really know what this generation's called
Yeah. It's like now
before
it's
the
like, oh,
millennials. Or
yeah. And they're like, well, you're a millennial too. That's what it does. And so
yeah,
sure.
it's funny.
But
So
yeah.
so welcome to the Generalist Father podcast. Out of these five interests, how many would you say you share as far as fatherhood, theology, investing or business, which you definitely have your business going, arts, which that's your business, and outdoors. So like,
Yeah.
are
I
you
mean,
kind of a generalist, or do you think you're kind of specific into your art, or what would you say?
I definitely hit on all of those categories. Probably the top ones is like theology and art, and family. I would probably like the top three.
Yeah.
And then outdoors, it's something that I'm often in. I'm heavily a part of the outdoors, but I don't own boots, so maybe I don't fit that category as pure as some people do.
Yeah. You're not out backpacking or hunting or fly fishing.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily doing that, but I do go outside. I do enjoy the outdoors. And I live in our town. It's a small town, but we're like in the country. Um, something that we were talking
Do you
about a little
chop
bit.
your own wood?
Oh my gosh, I hate wood. uh, I grew up with a wood burning stove. Uh,
Yeah. What do you have
so
now?
now we have normal American heat.
Oh, HVAC. Like,
Yeah,
like
you
just
know,
turn up the thermostat. You don't have to
yeah,
chop anything.
yeah, freaking, it's amazing. No, I grew up, yeah, for a long time. I didn't always have to chop the wood. Um, Sometimes we would get a load of wood just dropped off, so I definitely had to stack the wood.
Get
Um,
a stack of cord,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
like 4 by 4 by 8.
yeah. We would just do like one big long row, base, or I don't know, maybe a few deep. Um, we had a few different locations. We'd have like one that basically was the entire length of our driveway, and then we had like the wood that we'd be using like right away, and that would be like right next to the door. Um, and like
We have that
literally,
going on in my parents' cabin right now.
yeah, you walk through the front door, and then there's a giant, I mean, it's fairly large, of just a metal black box right in front of the doorway, basically. Of just, you fill that thing with firewood, and that's how our house was heated. But like, one, you constantly smell like smoke at all times. And I remember being a kid and like getting on the bus, and people like, you smell like smoked ham. And I'm like, yeah, like nothing I can do about it, man. Like, and and then also like my dad would run that thing so hot. And so there'd be times where it'd be like 750 degrees, like a black box that's 700 degrees in your living room, that's
Literally,
heated.
like you had a thermostat on it.
Yeah, it had like a little like thing on it that like showed like the temperature that that box was running at. And yeah, it'd be like 750 degrees. And so you're like, it's the dead of winter and you're just sweating. Like you have like one sheet on and you're just like, it is so hot in this house and so dry. And
Yeah.
so I'm not in love with the whole wood thing. I greatly appreciate having just, oh, it's a little cold out. All we gotta do is turn up the heat. And also, uh, when I was, I think in junior high, uh, our house caught on fire because of the wood burning stove, uh, on Christmas Day.
Oh, so you and fire do not have a good relationship
Yeah, yeah, because we would
on
sometimes,
Christmas Day.
yeah, yeah, on Christmas Day, I put fire in the stove, but we would have wood stacked next to the stove if it was like maybe like it had like frost or ice or snow on it. And so it'd sit like right next to the wood burning stove to like thaw it out a little bit and dry it out.
Whoa.
And put the fire in. We will like had left the house. I think we went to see a movie or something. And when we came back, that wood on the outside had caught on fire because I guess it was too close. And like, yeah, so like our like living room was on fire. I was one that opened the door. I like opened it, was
Did you
like,
just get it put out? Or
yeah,
is this like your house burn down story?
it didn't burn all the way down. It was just the living room and like, yeah, mainly just the living room was pretty burnt up.
Like just took some repairs, like a couple weeks.
It took a little bit. The worst part was the smoke damage. Was
Yeah.
like, it was like you could see the studs everywhere like that. Now the house really smelled like smoke. Uh and so
Wow.
like we had to like live in a different house for like a little bit. It was just like a Habitat for Humanity type of home.
Oh
That we
wow.
lived
How
in
old were
for
you?
I was in junior high. I think I was maybe in like seventh grade.
Wow, that's
Um
intense. That's like when have you seen This Is Us,
I
the
don't think
show?
I know the show, but I don't think I've watched it.
The dad died during that kind of fire. Like the kids were in
Oh
junior high,
wow.
basically.
Dang.
The dad went back in to save the dog, and then he got too much smoke inhalation
Wow.
and then had a
Are
heart attack.
dang.
Not to
Are,
spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen the show, but
yeah.
that's what
Are,
happens.
surprisingly enough, our cats survived. They literally like we had a pool table in our house, and they like somehow climbed inside the pool table and like survived inside of that.
Oh,
Uh,
that's crazy.
which it would
The
have
pool
sucked
table.
if they would have died inside of that, because no one wants two dead cats in your pool table.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay, so I feel like you just said that you're pretty much a generalist father
yeah.
in multiple categories. What activities would you say are recharging for you after, like, if a week is stressful, work is stressful, family can be stressful,
Hmm.
especially with two littles
Yeah.
and one on the way. Wife is stressed out. Sometimes she has like emotions and anxiety from being pregnant and other things, and two littles
Yeah.
while you're working. What do you find either one grounds you and gives you your ability to have like peace and be a better father, be a better husband, be more
Hmm.
present? But secondly, what do you want to do with friends that also fulfills you?
Yeah.
And then a third part of that would be, so you yourself, you with friends, and then third would be like, what do you need with your wife, or what do you try to give your wife?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely like the kind of, and sometimes it depends on how I'm feeling necessarily. But definitely like going skateboarding is like my one thing that, like as I like grew up, like I like play video games and do different stuff, but as I got older, I got less time, as most people figure out. It's like the older you get, the less time you have because you have so many obligations. And so for me, skateboarding is like the one thing where I'm like, all right, that's a priority in my life, that like if I'm not being a father or doing art or being a husband or working, then that's the other thing on the list where it's like I'm gonna go skate if I have the opportunity. So definitely like skating is that thing that recharges me, um or even just like resets me, I think, like
How
where
far how far is it from your house to go like have a good time?
uh so
Close?
that is one of the biggest blessings. I grew up in this town, for a long time, and skateboarding was on the edge of like outlawed in our town, because it's a tourist town that like they want to keep it quaint and cute. A really good representation of my town is like any Hallmark movie. uh
Really?
yeah, yeah,
You live
like
in a Hallmark movie town?
basically.
Those are
uh
beautiful.
yeah, it's really amazing. And
It really looks like that.
yeah, it does. Like they have rules where like you can't
Nashville,
have,
Indiana people, if you want to go
for
have a
real.
Hallmark date.
Yeah, come October is the biggest month for our town, that like literally like if you work in a shop in town, you are not allowed to have any time off in October, kind
Why
of thing,
October?
because that's when all the trees change colors.
Oh,
And so
nice.
everybody comes out to
It's a
Brown
fall
County.
color thing. Fall
Yeah.
colors thing.
Yeah, so we're huge on our trees and that kind of thing. So yeah, so
Random question. Do you know your trees?
not super well. Like I can, like there's an ash tree in our backyard that like it's like, oh, like
You know
I
it's
know.
an ash.
Yeah, and there's a friggin' pine tree that we hate in our front yard, because all it does is dump needles over our entire house and our entire lawn and our entire driveway.
Yeah.
Uh, and then you're sticky. It also dumps sap all over your stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not our favorite tree, but
Sap on cars is not good.
dude, I have sap. It's been on my car for so long, dude. It's just a part of my car now. Like, but
So yeah, so you're saying skating recharges you,
yeah. And so, yeah, like I was
and
saying,
that's usually with friends as well, right?
yeah, at times. I was kind of say like it was kind of outlawed in our town, but a few years back, a friend of mine, and we all kind of like worked and basically got a skate park built in our town with no help from the city. Um,
Was that part of your Catchwind crew?
Kind of, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Is
so
it?
go into that because you're wearing the shirt. If anyone's watching the video, and this will be YouTube
Mhm.
and podcast.
Yeah. So Catchwind is a ministry slash clothing company that I run.
Slash
It
skate crew, I'd say, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like a bunch
And
of
so
skaters.
yeah, really like the heart behind the brand is like skateboarding and loving Jesus and art. And so like blending all that into one thing. Every summer we do a tour. It's around 2 weeks long where we gather a bunch of dudes and we go out into different cities and get in a van and we go and to just different cities, skate the streets, be out in the world, kind of with the purpose of we do a lot of skate like filming in the streets. So we put together like a full length uh like tour video after the summer, and then we're
And
in
is
the
that
streets.
partially you filming?
I don't do too much of the filming. We were blessed enough from the very beginning to have twin brothers that are filmers.
They're all into it.
um yeah, dude, they're so good. They have like the legit cameras. They're amazing filmers. um and so which is cool because like you typically have like two angles on every clip, where it's like you have like a
Yeah, that's
fisheye
awesome.
angle that's like up on the like say you're like skating a handrail, so you have like right up on the handrail, and then you have like the long lens like the other twins like up in a tree somewhere like filming, uh just like that wide angle or like the kind of long zoomed out angle.
Yeah,
So that's always sick. But yeah,
that's
so
cool.
and our goal with that is like to share the gospel with people in the streets and reach other skateboarders, along with like just, hey man, come out and skate with us and really disciple the guys that are on the trip and pouring into their lives. So yeah,
Has that
that's
been
kind of.
have you felt like sharing it in that way has had effect, or is it more like the guys who hang with you and like actually have a relationship with you
Yeah,
makes more of an effect?
for sure that like it's definitely more focused inwardly of like and every year like I basically hand pick who's coming on the trip, because we never really have too many more than like 12 people.
How big of a
This
tour are you talking? Like 2 weeks or a
Yeah,
month
it's
or
two
what?
2 weeks. This past tour
Where do you
we
guys go?
different places almost every year. Last year we did North Carolina and Florida. And so like skated a few different cities in North Carolina and then drove down to Florida and skated a couple more cities. This year, I think we're going to be skating in Chicago, Michigan, and Louisville, Kentucky.
Nice.
So a few
You're
different
giving me
spots.
ideas. We're gonna have a generalist father like skate sessions slash fly fishing engagements in different cities and
Yeah.
towns.
Well, something like this, like something that like always ends up within like a tour is like we love skating, skating super cool. And so like we're pushing hard skating, but like it always seems like at least one day on the trip we're like, okay, like let's do something that's not skating. And it typically is like, let's go climb a mountain, let's go find a lake, let's find a
Heck yeah.
river, like and those kind of things.
Oh, that's cool.
Like we did one a year a few it was actually like 2020, so like right in the height of like all like the lockdowns and all that stuff, and I was like, we're still doing the tour. Like
Yeah.
and we did it in like the ideal place to have to do it. It's so funny, dude. We literally did the West Coast, where like like that's where everyone was like so intense.
Yeah.
um and so we did Oregon and in California, but like we'd have a lot of the mornings like in we were in uh dang it, like the main city, Portland, Oregon. And so like a couple mornings we like went up to like Mount Tabor and just like went to the top of the mountain, met up with our good friend Joe Gruber, who is like an ex-pro skater, and like just had like a Bible devotional, like sat down under these amazing massive trees and just like talked about the Lord. And then we bombed the whole mountain all the way down to the bottom, which was so sick.
That's
and uh
rad.
and then like later on in the trip, like we'd be like, oh, it's like it'd be like, oh, there's this like skate spot over here, and I'm pretty sure there's like a cliff like nearby, so like let's go up on the cliff and like chill and like have some devotions in the morning, and then let's go skate this spot. And so we always end up doing something that involves some type of like nature thing, just because I don't know, it's just like really beautiful. I always seem to like have a good connection with the Lord when I'm in nature, especially like with friends. Like you're able to like separate a little bit and have like some one-on-one, just like I'm just alone. I don't have like cell signal. I'm not like, on my phone or anything. But then I can still, then we kind of like gather back and like we're just chilling. And the great thing about nature is that it's freaking free, dude. You don't got to spend any money in the nature. So
Yeah,
that's always a
it's
good thing for
free
us.
and it's neutral in the sense that it appeals to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
There's always something.
everyone that appeals to, if it appeals to them at all, it appeals to
Yeah.
everyone equally, like in the sense of faith or no faith, like nature's a way to connect. And I have that
Hmm.
with some friends too, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're
And
always
so,
finding mountains or finding cliffs or just some type of outdoors thing. Along with skating, like we're in the streets all the time. And so we're always like sitting under a tree somewhere, like someone's trying to trick for like an hour and everyone else is like chilling. And so we're all just like sitting under a tree in the grass, like living life. So it's good, man.
that's cool. So let's talk about your art because I found you through your art just through Instagram randomly. Let's talk about how
Mhm.
we met
Yeah.
and then talk about scale because like I just did my first mural last week
Oh,
and a half
sick.
ago and you work tiny.
Well,
I think that's
so
a cool thing to talk about. And then
yeah.
you have other forms that you work with, but you do a lot
Hmm.
of tiny stuff, which is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been doing art for probably around 10 years now. Um, and kind of my story of an artist was like, I always told people that I was not creative growing up. I was like, I am not an artist because
Why were you saying that?
well, I never took an art class and I knew people that like could draw for real. And I was like, I didn't know really how to draw. And so I just didn't think I was creative because of that.
Like you
And
weren't drawing?
no, like growing up, like never took an art class.
You
Like
just
I
thought you
would,
couldn't draw, but you hadn't hardly tried.
well, I do like doodles, but like I remember like I just like grew up like in school and like you had the artists that like knew how to draw a person's face
Yeah,
and like I never knew how to do that. I
yeah.
I'm still not super great I'm like getting better at drawing faces. Like a lot of my style is like American traditional tattoo. So like I'm not trying to do like someone's portrait, but like a kind of traditional tattoo rendition of that I'm down for.
Like you're working with a lot of reference.
Yeah, yeah, everything I do, lots and lots of references. There's only a few things that I can like draw from like just my mind with like a
Which you,
skull, a
even a
rose.
human face is a lot of reference, anyways.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like so I just never like really got like those basic things. But then
So what
like
happened? How'd you start becoming an artist?
yeah, so um I was slightly I'd be around some other people that were kind of creative and I'd like see what they were doing and I was like, wow, that's super cool. I'd love to be able to do that, but like I don't know how to draw, so I can't.
Like what were you
And
seeing that was inspiring you
uh I did a ministry program.
specifically?
Yeah, like, I did a ministry program a while back, like right out of high school. And I remember sitting down with my friend Albert and he did like graffiti. He was like a graffiti artist, but then he also um knew how to do some stuff like some t-shirt design and that kind of stuff like with like Adobe Illustrator. And I remember like sitting down with him once and he was like, hey dude, you want to make a shirt with me? And I was like, sure. And I just like sat down and like basically I always
It's
just like
rad.
chose elements and I was like, oh, let's do like a tiger, let's do like a sunburst behind it, and like let's do some words. And so he just did it all. But I remember him clicking on something in Adobe Illustrator and it showed all the anchor points of the design. And
Mhm.
I was like, I can never do that, dude. Like, I don't even understand what's going on. That looks insane.
Yeah,
Which now it's funny because like now I do that stuff all the time.
yeah.
Uh, but
But it kind of blew your mind and kind of showed you what could be done.
yeah, and then not long after that, I was working in a kitchen at a job that I didn't really care about. And a friend of mine's father-in-law had bought this camp, like a youth camp, and he also randomly had bought a large vinyl banner printer. Uh, And so he was like, hey, Cory, you want to come and run this banner printer and be the graphic designer for this camp? And I was like,
Yes.
and I'm like, well, I don't know any, like, I don't
I don't
have a
know anything,
computer
but sure.
and I'm not creative and I don't have any art skills, but okay. And he's like, great, sounds good. And just kind of threw me into it. So then I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials. Like he let me use his computer. Um and like I like the first like thing I started figuring out was like, all right, like I saw like one of the guys I watched on YouTube did a lot of hand lettering and typography. And I was like, okay, I know how to write words and I can write a letter. And so like you don't have to like learn how like drawing letters is pretty easy. Like you know the concept of it at least. Like you don't need a reference to draw the letter A. It's like I know what an A looks like.
Yeah.
And so then you just like learn different ways. And so I started like just digital typography kind of stuff. And then that guy that I was like watching on YouTube, his name's Will Patterson. Um, uh one of his videos he was like, you really limit yourself if you're only like digitally creating art. Like you need to learn how to draw with your hands. And so I was like, I don't want to limit myself because like there's some graphic designers out there that are like professional full-time graphic designers but like literally can't draw with like a pencil or pen. Like
Yeah.
they can only design in a computer. And I was like, dang dude, like I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that limited. And so I bought a notebook and a pencil and a pen. Like I bought like a micron pen and like a mechanical pencil and a notebook. And I was like, all right, let's figure this out. And I just started
So what
like
year is this now?
uh I'm really always really bad about year stuff.
Because you got really good. So what
Yeah,
year is this?
thanks, man. I mean, this was like year one, like
Well,
about
when?
10 years ago. So
Okay.
yeah,
So I mean,
somewhere,
I was more of a natural artist from a young age, and
yeah,
but no one showed me like an on ramp to like become an artist. So I got left in high school
yeah,
till like now. I'm like 45. I'm like, what the hell am I doing with this skill? Like, what happened?
yeah. Well, I
I've had a few like bursts of art where I did a big body of work in like 2010,
hmm
2017, stuff like that. But nothing like consistent and nothing like where I could consider myself an artist or go
yeah,
after it as an artist. And so that's why, talking to you is very inspiring in that regard, is like
hmm
you built a career at it over the last 10 years. That's,
yeah,
sustaining your family, which is something
yeah,
that no one showed me how that could be done.
yeah. And that was
And there's probably, if this has an arts element as a podcast, any other artist is asking that question. Like, how can you make
yeah.
a career as an artist?
And that was probably a benefit for me is that I started as a career. And like I learned art at it was my
As
job
you
was to
went.
learn art, like
Yeah,
it was like
that's crazy.
like that's where I just got tossed into it. And so like from the very beginning I had an understanding that if I'm putting work into this, like it's worth money. Like and so now and like now I draw stuff all the time, but I still even everything I draw, I feel like there's still like something in my mind where it's like I should be able to profit off of this somehow. Like I like it very rarely will I draw anything just for nothing. Like I feel
So
like
that brings up how we met.
yeah, yeah, like
You want
yeah.
to tell it?
Oh yeah, you can
You
yeah.
had, I don't know what the post was, but you had said something about like people are giving you some crap about like art for art's sake.
Oh yes, dude. Yes. All right.
And then Words Played came in and had a comment on what I said, but like
Yeah.
I don't know what the
So
premise was.
yeah, he posted something. It was like about um I don't know. It was maybe like the song Grand Budapest or something, where it was just like
Oh yeah, you're
the
right.
whole song, which I loved the song when it
Yeah,
came
Words
out.
Played song Grand Budapest. People, Christian dudes were like giving him crap that there was nothing spiritual about it.
Yeah,
And
but it
he
was
was like,
just
why can't
goofy.
I just do art for art's sake? And
Yeah.
Cory was chiming in. And then I chimed in and
hmm
I said, God made like sloths and ostriches.
Yeah.
So obviously God cares about art for art's sake. Like there's no
Yeah.
meaning behind ostriches and sloths.
Yeah, he's made a lot of really weird stuff.
Yeah.
and
Which is
and
just supremely absurd and weird and crazy and funny
hmm
or beautiful. Some
yeah,
stuff is just beautiful for beautiful sake. Like when you see thousands and thousands of colored fish or
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of colored birds. Like that's the vastness of the beauty of it. But then
Yeah.
you see the weirdness of like an ostrich or a sloth or an armadillo, and you're like,
Well,
what the heck?
I mean, dude, even color itself is like something that blows my mind all the time because color isn't physical in any way. Like, like nothing is,
It's like a wavelength.
yeah, it's exclusively your eyes that make color. Like, that's it. Like, if you didn't have eyes, color wouldn't exist. Like, there's plenty of creatures that have different eyes than us, and color doesn't exist for them, and it doesn't matter to them.
That's
Like,
trippy, yeah.
but only human, or well,
Like
not
this
only
hat, I
humans.
found out that some animals we hunt can see this color and some can't.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
dude.
it's like
Like,
the hunting orange.
and like that's what's like freaking nuts. And so like that God was like, yo, I'm gonna give them this like extra thing. And like, yeah, there's lots of practical uses for color, like a hunting orange, where it's like, oh, that stands out. I know not to shoot that guy. But there's
Mhm.
also like all the other uses, which is amazing. But yeah, so the art for art's sake. And I saw your comment and I was like, dude, that's freaking hilarious. That's exactly like I totally agree with that. Like, and so I was like, I'm gonna make a graphic. I think someone said like that should be a shirt or something. And then I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna make the design instantly.
And you
And
bust out
so
this sloth riding on an ostrich with a
yeah,
flag that says art
yeah.
for art's sake.
And I was like, dude, I'm about it, man. Because
So I need
I
to buy that shirt, whether it exists
yeah,
or not. I need to
I
pay
should at
for it.
least make like a sticker or something one day. Like
Yeah.
that'd be a good one. But
No, I would
like,
wear the shirt right now.
yeah,
So I'll buy it. If you can
yeah,
print it at your shop.
probably can.
The screen print's like what, $30 to get it screen done?
Yeah.
A
We did,
thousand?
yeah. We I we've had people where they're like, I need one shirt, and I think we charge them like $100 for one shirt. Because just like all the work it takes to like prep the artwork, burn the screen, put the ink in
Okay,
the
I'm down for
screen.
that. I'm down for that. 100.
We could probably find a more flexible way to make it work for internal client or internal stuff
I'm
like
down for
me.
that though. No, I'll pay full price, $100 for
But
real. But anyway, so yeah, that's how we met. And so that was like, I mean, that's an important question is like, can art matter for art's sake? Like
yeah.
my wife's an artist. So when we met, I'm a guy who got way into ministry, and my pastors were like, are you gonna do art and like music, or are you gonna do ministry? And not to diss them, but they kind of did downplay my art and my music,
Yeah.
like in a pretty bad way, where like it didn't matter. Only
Hmm.
what mattered was what I was doing for the youth ministry.
Yeah.
Then I met my wife, like, um, you know, let's see, like 97, 98. Then I met her in like 03, 04. It's like 5 years later. She's like, well, I'm an artist. So like, do you think I have to do like Jesus paintings all the time? And I'm like, are you against that? You know, I'm like, I'm still super
Only
Christian, and
one
like
subject. That's
the
all you're
way I
allowed to
think
paint.
of my art, like
Yeah.
only it can only matter if it's for ministry. It's kind of like
Hmm.
this backdrop I was living from, which was very limiting. And like I didn't do any art because of it.
Yeah.
And it kind of like got left behind where
Hmm.
I was like, it's like my number one natural talent.
Yeah.
And then I watched her and I was like, no, you can do whatever you need to do as an artist. And I try to validate her and her art the whole way. And it's always been just like what she wants to do, and that's her thing. And that's what I've tried to encourage. Like now we're approaching 19 years married. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you do. You do what you need to do as an artist. Don't listen to my background because it
Yeah.
didn't help me.
Yeah. Well,
That's kind of what happened.
yeah, man. I think something like with that, like you're talking about how like the church was like downplaying art for art's sake or whatever, like but the struggle is culture, the rest of the world only cares about art for art's sake.
Hmm.
And like the most popular stuff out there, nobody cares about the lyrics, nobody cares about what they're saying. They only care if it sounds good. And I think there's some Christian artists that have done an excellent job at hitting both things of like, this is really musically great or artistically amazing, and it has a strong message, which is awesome. But also like sometimes like people are just not going to get reached at all if you're only doing stuff that is like in the Christian vein. I think there's nothing wrong with if your focus is like, I just want to encourage the body of believers, that's it. Like, I don't have any gospel or any like evangelistic goal behind this, then cool, man. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's plenty of people called to exclusively encourage the body. You
Mhm.
know, I dig it. Uh, and then there's other people that have a different goal, which is more like, I want to reach people and nobody's going to care about what I'm doing. Like, if it's only just saying the word Jesus over and over again, like, people that don't know Jesus don't want to listen to worship music at all, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
but
Like, why
people that
would
don't
they?
know, yeah, but people that don't
Yeah.
know Jesus, maybe they'll listen to words played song and be like, that song was nuts. Like,
Yeah.
and it and maybe it's something that like gets them interested, and then all of a sudden they start seeing the substance behind it and be like, whoa, this just like reached me. There's another hip hop artist I listen to called Froggy Raw. Um, and he's not your typical Christian rapper at all. Like, he does mumble rap, he curses in some of his songs, and like, you know, some people would just be like, no way, this is not Christian, this is not good. But the reality is, he's playing shows that like non-believers are going to, and non-believers are listening to
Yeah.
his music and getting into it, and then they're seeing, oh, this dude just like is glorifying God in like half of his songs, this dude is like pointing to Jesus, like, or this dude's creating a relationship with people, and
Or
reaching
he's
people for Jesus.
participating and contributing in the culture,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
adding fabric that's from him and from his like.
Hmm.
That's the part that bothers me, is like, if we think we can only contribute one way or the other, and not think we can be a whole person who like contributes to culture but is not like somehow, I don't know, like as if you have to preach to be a rapper or something like
Yeah,
that. There's nothing in the Bible that says that.
yeah,
The
really,
Bible doesn't
like,
have a whole lot to say about rap.
yeah, yeah, for
It just
real.
talks about like, loving God and loving your neighbors. So like, if you're gonna love your neighbors well,
Hmm.
make them some really good music and point them towards, good things and God.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at as an artist in general. It's like, art for art's sake is a good question, because like, what points people to God? It's like, what is good, what is beautiful, what is right? And
yeah,
obviously the more verbal,
yeah,
overt messages of God, which are true and good, but like, some people are not ready for that. Like, some stuff's like a fire hose for people,
yeah.
and some stuff's like a smelling salt for people,
Hmm.
and some stuff's like a little tiny flower along the way.
Yeah,
So I feel
yeah.
like there's artists that can do many categories of all that. And to think like it all has to be all or nothing is kind of
Hmm.
absurd. And that's kind of always been annoying to me.
Yeah. 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 Like I said earlier, like, my art style is very inspired by American traditional tattoos. And now recently I've started actually tattooing, which is amazing. And being able to apply American traditional tattoos on people. Which, even that in itself, we can jump into that a bit later, of just like some cool stuff with that. But like, that type of art was like, like American traditional tattoo, like, there's these like core things that you just see show up often. Like, you see roses, you see daggers, you see skulls, you see these different things pop up. And so you see that as these elements that show up often in my designs and stuff. Um, but like, I like to describe my art often as like, it's kind of like like abstract, it's a little abstract in the meaning. Like, it's not blatantly, Christian at times. All of my stuff, or a lot of my stuff, has like Christian meaning behind it. Um, but, like, kind of like what I mentioned about like doing like the tattooing, something cool that it's done for me is like, it's opened me up to like, to just kind of start drawing anything. Where sometimes I feel a little constrained, where I'm like, on my main like Instagram account, uh I'm like, well, I want, and I it's like, the purpose of it is like, I want to be encouraging with my art. I want to create something that's going to encourage someone. And so I try to have like a godly message or like an encouraging message behind each piece for the most part. Um, but kind of like with doing like the traditional tattoo, I've just been drawing a lot of flash sheets. And so just being like, oh, I want to draw a frog sitting on a toadstool and, just chilling, or I want to draw just a dagger just on itself, or uh, a panther that is mashed up with a moth or something, just like kind of
Yeah.
unique and different stuff that like it's not overtly Christian in any way or not even Christian in any way. It's just art for art's sake that like this just looks cool. And so one, I think it's helped me grow as an artist because I'm not as limited to just like I have to draw something that represents a biblical principle. But I've also found a lot of times I'll draw something that originally didn't have a biblical principle to it. And then I'm like looking at my flash and I'm like, oh, yeah, this kind of like a post that I did recently. Um, it was this dagger that was going through a heart, and then there was like an eagle on it as well. And like none of those things have anything to do with Jesus necessarily. Uh, but and like I kind of like got inspiration from that design from I have like a book, it's like a tattoo book that has like this other tattoo artist. It's just like I don't know, a few hundred different pieces of flash that they've drawn over the years. And it's like, hey, you buy this book, and they're all just like these little kind of like line arts of like stuff he's drawn and to like pull inspiration from basically.
Hmm.
And so I was like looking through that book and was like, oh, like it was like a design like that. And I was like, oh, I like how that looks. That's pretty cool. I'm sure someone would want to get that tattooed, or, obviously someone has gotten this tattooed. And dagger through a heart looks cool. Eagles always are cool. Um, but like after I drew it, it kind of like acquired its purpose and its like kind of meaning behind it. Like I like drew it, liked it, and then like I think the scripture reference I tagged on it was yeah, I like added the words cut open and laid bare, and it kind of comes from Hebrews 4:12 and 13, where it talks about like the word of God is living
Living
and
and active.
active, that it
Yeah.
like is able to like cut to our heart and cut us open and lay us bare, and that like nothing is hidden from the Lord. And so like you know after I draw this thing that maybe doesn't have Christian meaning behind it, all of a sudden it's like now I'm like finding Christian meaning where it's like this dagger is cutting to the heart, and the word of God is like a dagger. It's like a knife that cuts us to our core. And then, I feel like the eagle along with it is like this thing that's like wisdom from the Lord. And like, I always kind of like when I think of eagles, it's kind of like this noble creature that can often have symbolism towards the Lord. There's scripture that talks about that he covers us like an eagle's wings and those kind of things. So it was like
Yeah.
originally not Christian art, but found Christian meaning within something. And so that's kind of sometimes how my art process works at times, where like sometimes I get a direct idea. Um, like the most recent post I posted, I think I did it last night, was this like
What's your
lamb.
Instagram, by the way? If anyone's listening, they can look it up right now.
Yeah, it's just Cory Romeiser. Just COR.
Romeiser.
Yeah, CORYROMEISER. So just Cory Romeiser. And then my tattoo page is just what is it? Let me Yeah, it's just Cory Romeiser tattoo. Um, and then Catchwind is Catchwind Clothing Co. So follow them all. But
Wait,
but
I'm
like
sorry. When you say that, do you feel like do you feel like you have to attach Christian meaning to something, or
not
is that something
always.
that happens through your own like internal process?
Yeah, so uh for my personal Cory Romeiser account, um and this has been something that's just been within me since I was in high school. Back when people used Facebook or MySpace, if you remember those type of things. When I'd post my captions or whatever, because back then all it was captions. That was your status update or whatever. You didn't have photos along with it. But like when I'd post that stuff, I was like, I'd always just see all the negativity and like lame stuff on social media. And I was like, I want to, offer something that isn't lame and that is encouraging. And so for my Cory Romeiser account, which is my main art account, I just kind of made a personal decision for the most part to, when I post on that account, to be something that will uplift and encourage somebody in
Mm,
some way.
that's
Um,
cool.
and like we were talking, art for art's sake, like sometimes it is just like, man, it's just something cool, and it is what it is. Like it's
Yeah.
just something sick. It's like a skeleton pushing a skateboard, and like I just think it looks sick, and it probably will hype up some other people. And like what we were talking about earlier, it may reach a different audience that would have not followed me beforehand, but now they're like, dang, that skeleton was really sick. I want to see what this guy has to offer. And then they're following me and they're just casually getting hit with, all the other stuff that I'm posting that is biblically encouraging and like kind of Christianly encouraging in some ways. So with that particular account, I have some guidelines for myself,
Mhm.
that I try to stay within, to be like, and really like when I started posting art on that account, um, it really just started for myself personally. Um, I would be spending time with the Lord, and I'd get like a good word that encouraged me, and so I was like, I'm gonna make a phone background. I'm like gonna draw something because like I want it to look cool. And I'll just make it my phone background. And then that's what I'll have to like remind me for the next, couple weeks about this thing that God talked to me about that, encouraged me. And so then I started doing that on my Instagram where I'd post a post that, came out of, hey, I was spending time with the Lord and like I feel like God spoke something to me and I got stoked on it. And then I drew a piece of art to like remind myself of what that thing is and maybe like a little tagline of like a couple words that link with it. And then I'd put it in my story after I posted it and said like hold and screenshot for background so that other people could like screenshot, like if in your stories if you like hold your thumb on it, it gets the way the like the words or whatever,
Mhm.
like their handle and stuff, and then you just like do a little screenshot, and then now you can use it as your phone background. And that's what I do for all of my art. Is like I'm swapping out my phone backgrounds if I'm stoked on a different piece. Uh, and then it's really cool because sometimes I'll be like walking around. Oh, I'll even like see people that I don't live near, where like maybe like they live in a different state and I'm like visiting them and like I'll see their phone light up, they get a like notification and like my art's on their background. And I'm like, oh sick, dude, like it's working. Like like people are being encouraged uh by my art,
Yeah.
exactly how I hoped it to be.
Yeah.
Um so
That's cool.
yeah.
And I noticed like I have like I think 700 something followers and you have like 12,000 something.
No.
Was that
Yeah.
like over the last few years or was it kind of
Yeah.
along the way of 10 years? Like it
Yeah,
was always building.
it's been a journey. I do photography as well. I skateboard, and then I do art. They're kind of like, these kind of
Are
few
people reaching out to
principles.
you for this and that?
Yeah, and so back when Instagram first started, like, it was kind of photo based, and that's when I started getting more into photography. And so I used to even go to like Instagram meetups where like uh you'd like meet a bunch of other photographers. You'd be like, hey, we're going to this place at this time. And it'd just be like a bunch of people would go there and then you just take photos with all these different people that you hadn't met before.
Wow.
And so that was always really fun. And sometimes it was like nature places and sometimes it was like somewhere in a city. But we'd go to these places and so I was like getting better at photography. And so my account started growing a little bit from that, of like I was kind of known for a little bit of like taking cool photos. And so I think that pushed me up to like 1,000 followers or maybe 2,000 followers. And I was like, sick, dude. Like I never thought I
Sick,
had
dude.
I had like I have a bucket list that I made like a long time ago. And like one of my goals on the bucket list, like that seemed like unattainable, was like get 1,000 followers on Instagram. Like I was like,
That's funny.
like if I knew someone in my town that had 1,000 followers, I was like, dang, dude, that person is like really popular. Like
Big
they're really
deal.
cool. And
I'm kind of a big deal.
yeah,
Many leather bound books.
yeah. And so then, doing all the photos and that stuff, um, that kind of boosted it up a little bit because there was like accounts that would like reshare your photos that you took, and there was
Mhm.
like little community in that. Um, and then like skating, there's like the skate community, and so like I ride for a company called Untitled Skateboards that they make skateboards, which Catchwind just did a collaboration with them. It's live now, so I have some art on one of their skateboards, which is really cool.
Cool.
um it's the
And so,
serpent, or
oh,
yeah,
sorry.
I would say it's the serpent and the dove graphic from my Instagram, if you've
Oh,
seen it.
cool.
But yeah, so that was kind of the journey of it.
Skateboard's
of
called Untitled.
Yeah, Untitled Skateboards.
Cool. So how long ago did you become like your own businessman from like working for others?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I started doing business at the very start of doing art. Like I was designing for money from the start, and then uh I started feeling more confident about my art, and I started posting stuff on Instagram. And then people were like, you should do a clothing brand. And I was like, I should do a clothing brand. And I tried doing that like a few, I don't know, maybe like a couple years into being, doing art. And I could not get past selling t-shirts to like the 20 people that I knew, you know.
Hmm.
Like and I tried to like do this clothing brand, and it just like I just couldn't get past those 20 people. I sold to all my friends, all the people I went to church with. And then I was like, how do I sell to any new people? And I didn't know how. And it just kind of fell apart. And then I was like, all right, I'm not doing another clothing brand ever again. Like that is not my thing. Uh, and so then I just started doing art again for other people. I moved out to California for a short season, doing graphic
Where were you
design.
there?
We were in a wonderful little town called Sunland, Tahunga.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it's about 30 minutes from Hollywood, in this like San Fernando Valley. It's like near Glendale. Um,
Oh, and little shout out to my Ventura County friends. When did you go there?
yeah, so I was out in California, and it was with a ministry called Calling All Skaters. So it's a skate ministry. And I did graphic design for them. And that was kind of my in to get in with those guys, because like I grew up skating all this time, loved skating, but kind of struggled incorporating Jesus into skating. Um, and so had this in to like go do graphic design for those guys. And while I was out there, so I was like on staff with like their ministry. And so then we did a ministry staff retreat and went out to Ventura, and it was maybe for like a weekend or something, but it was like so sick. um there's like so much fruit in Ventura, and so like walk out the door, grab an orange off the tree, and then we just bomb this like really gnarly hill, and like eat oranges as I'm like, like tears are like going down your eye because like the wind is so intense. And just bomb the hill, and then we just
And there's some
skate.
serious hills in Ventura, actually.
Yeah, dude, they're freaking no joke, man. But
Some
they're so
buddies would tell
fun.
me how they used to bomb the certain hills right around downtown Ventura, and I was like, "Are you
Dude,
guys
it's probably
serious?
the
Like you're
same
trying to
one.
die?"
It's the one that we hit. It's right next to, I think it's the high school or something.
Yeah, or the
Um,
state house.
yeah,
It's
like
iconic.
you just like literally like shotgun this hill straight down, and then it just goes out straight for a while. So like you just like literally like you just like do the whole street with like no effort. You
Yeah,
like push at the top once maybe, and but then we just go skate the rest of the day in Ventura, and it was so sick. A lot of really good skate spots. The ocean's nearby, so that was kind of cool. And yeah,
kind of cool. The guy from Indiana. He's
dude.
like, the
So
ocean's kind of cool.
I'm actually I'm really not a huge fan of like, I
You like the
appreciate the
woods and the
ocean.
cornfields.
I just I'm a skateboarder, man. And so
Yeah.
I don't own sandals. And so you go to the beach and I'm like, there's sand. Like, what am I gonna do with this? I can't skate here. And so then like
That's
I was
pretty
out there.
hardcore.
Yeah, I was out there for like 3 months, and I saw the beach when I went to like Venice Beach to go skate the skate park there like once,
Oh yeah.
and then in Ventura, like we like watched some dudes surf for a little bit,
You're like,
we
I'm
went
good.
yeah, and then we went and skated some more.
I'm good. Let's go bomb the hill again and then get a
Yeah,
burrito.
yeah, dude, and that's exactly what we did. So Ventura's sick.
So let's get some bearings here. So you're how many years into working for yourself? Let's get back to that question. And then
So
where do your kids come in?
yeah, so like
That's a crazy question for other fathers.
yeah, yeah. So like working for myself, I don't necessarily totally work for myself, and I think that's half of the key, at times, at least for me personally, to be successful in doing art for a living is, like I said, I started off working for this one random dude that said he was willing to pay me to do art and, other random tasks like print off a banner
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever. But it enabled me to draw pictures.
yeah.
And that's what I always just joke, like my job is I draw pictures for a living. And like I don't think it's any more serious than that. It's like I draw pictures. That's it, man. It's not that serious, but it's a blessing. And
So you're somewhat like employed by somebody, but you also have your own stuff
sort
at
of,
this point.
yeah. So really all the different times, like I was always working, and there was a season where like I worked for non-creative things, and I really hated all of those times where it was like I was working in a kitchen, I worked for an internet company, which was terrible. That was like the worst thing I ever did. And then but and in those seasons I would be doing like on the side freelance stuff. So I'd go to work, eight
Yeah, yeah.
hour 9 hour days, and then I'd come home to my wife and I would like draw pictures all night and talk with someone on the phone and be like, okay, yeah, I'll do your logo, I'll do your t-shirt design, and they're reaching out through Instagram. Like for me, the biggest resource is social media and Instagram. Like that is
It's cool.
90% of my work and stuff comes exclusively from Instagram.
It's cool to
Uh,
hear for us old farts who need to hear this is like
dude,
it's basically the new marketing. Like
if you are
websites are
not,
like websites
yeah,
are so 1990s.
yeah, if
You
you're
kind
not
of just got to be
actively
on social media.
sharing,
Yeah.
you gotta share your stuff. If you're
I'm
not
hearing
doing
this
it,
from everyone in marketing at this point,
dude,
and
you are,
I'm 45, so like
yeah,
I'm way older than you. And
hmm,
like some of us, my generation, we resisted the social media thing. We're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't
yeah.
want to be a slave to that. And it's like, what's the difference? Slave to that or slave to your website or slave to like email
Well,
marketing or
this is the
whatever it
thing,
is.
dude. It's literal free advertising. And like,
Yeah.
okay, say you meet someone on the street and you're talking to them and you say, "Well, I'm a graphic designer." And they say, "You know what? I've been looking for a graphic designer. You got a business card?" And you go, "Sure, man." And you give them their business card, and they either may never ever go to your website and look at your portfolio, or they go to your website one time and look at your portfolio one time. Doesn't sound super lucrative and doesn't sound super successful. Or you can say, yeah, man, my portfolio is on my Instagram. Everything that I create shows up there. Follow my Instagram. They follow you. Now, every time you post, they get a free ad of your work
Yeah.
showcasing in front of their face
Yeah.
and
Now we're
say,
talking.
and it's like, boom, there you go.
And
Here's,
that's the nature of email marketing. But if they just follow your Instagram, that's the same thing. It's like they're going to get that continual feed of like
yeah.
your stuff.
And like with my style of art, something that I try to be very intentional with, specifically my main account is, and this is just kind of like a happy accident, I guess, is like what I was sharing before is like, I want to provide value to people. I want to bring encouragement to people. Well, the thing with business, the number one thing you want to be doing is finding ways that you can provide free value to someone, that a potential customer is getting free value from you from just something that you're giving to them. Like no one has to pay to follow my Instagram, but they're instantly getting value when they follow my Instagram. Whether it like, and maybe your art is just so amazing that that it speaks for itself. And it's just so cool that like, people are just getting tons of value from it. For me, it was like, I have the encouragement aspect that like each post is trying to bring encouragement to whoever's reading it. And I think at this point now it's grown to a place where it's like, and it looks really great,
Mhm.
And so those are two
That's
free
cool.
things that I'm offering to people all the time that they're getting hyped on it. And like something that's challenging. So like with Catch Wind is like a clothing brand, and a ministry and that stuff, but the clothing brand funds the ministry side of it, but it's a lot harder to grow that account than growing my tattoo account or growing my main Instagram account, because uh, it's harder with my main Instagram and with the tattoo one. It's super easy shareable content, uh, which when people share your stuff is like, that is exactly what you want to happen. Like if someone shares your stuff, all of a sudden, not only did your post get viewed by your followers, but now your post just got viewed by all of their followers. And
Mhm.
so that's like doubling your free advertising that you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And so, like that's like literally like how I've become successful with art has been doing that. Like I post something, and especially like the past couple years, it really blew up with like people sharing my stuff, that like a lot of my posts get around like 100 to 200 shares, which is so valuable to me because it's like, cool, dude, like all these extra people get to see this stuff and they're just sharing it in their story because they were encouraged by my post. They felt value from it. They felt so much value. They wanted their friends to feel value from it. So they share it. Their friends feel value. Their friends are like, dang, that was not only an encouraging message, but that was really cool art. I'm going to go follow this person. And then I get a message from them saying, hey man, your art's really sick and it looks like tattoos. I have a tattoo design I've been wanting to do. Would you be down to design it for me? And I was like, yeah, dude, let's make a plan. And or they're saying, hey, I got this clothing brand, or hey, I am starting this business and I need a logo, or these different things. And so all of that stuff, like I'm just producing, like every art piece is basically a marketing tool,
Yeah.
to fund, you know, my family and all that stuff. So I don't know. That was kind of a lot, but it's something like it's really been the key to everything that I do is like people sharing my stuff. And like I say, Catch Wind, it's not easy for people to share it because it's a t-shirt. And not often is someone going to be like, I like that shirt so much and it moved me so much that I'm going to post it in my story.
Yeah. That's cool. Um, as a husband, what has been like, I don't know how long you've lived where you're at, but
Mhm.
like how's that been? How has the business played into your marriage?
Yeah.
You've been married, what you said, 6 years ish?
Yeah.
Ish. We'll just throw a little ish on there.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's
Uh,
6.
what do you think about being a husband and a businessman? Are you the sole breadwinner right now, or at this
Yeah.
point, with the wife staying at home with the kids?
Yeah. So since we started having kids, I've been the sole provider for our household. And Davey, he's 3 now, so for about 3 years, it's just been exclusively my income.
Was
Uh,
there a point of like stepping off there, like jumping, like taking the dive down the big half pipe,
uh, I don't know, like
or was it
we,
already going before that?
yeah, I mean, so something that really helped things grow for me. I was working in that kitchen for a second time, which is funny. Like I had just gotten married. I worked at that internet company that was not working, and actually they kind of let me go um, because I had a skate tour planned, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be gone for like I think 3 weeks that year. I was like, I'll be gone for 3 weeks, and they're like, cool, you can just quit now. And it felt like a movie. It felt like when it was like my first year of marriage, and the guy comes home to his wife, he's like, I lost my job. Like it was like the start of like every
Same
movie.
year, like your first year of marriage.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's crazy.
but then ended
Like
up
Office
working.
Space. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna work anymore.
Yeah. But like I started working in a kitchen and I did this challenge. It's like some Instagram challenge that was like I was really into hand lettering and typography back then. And so it was like a word a day. And it was just like 365-day lettering challenge to do like just a design every single day of like some typography or something
Oh,
like that.
that's when I caught on to you, because I
Yeah.
remember that, and I remember it was way before like we ever interacted,
Hmm.
and it was definitely 3 years ago or more.
Yeah. Which also like that helped like the art for art's sake because I was producing so every single day I was making a piece of art that like sometimes it was like, dude, it it can't be I don't have anything that's that inspirational. This is just what it is.
The practice.
Yeah. And but that posting every single day, posting a piece of art every day.
Okay, pause. Sorry.
Yeah.
So how different is that than a spiritual practice where it's like, okay, Lord, new day. I'm sitting on this bench in this
Yeah.
pretty little garden in the park.
Yeah, dude. You know, sometimes you
Howdy,
just gotta
Lord.
show up, man.
Howdy,
Like
Lord.
yeah, dude. Like that.
Like, I don't necessarily have something inspiring to tell the Lord each day.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
why
You're like,
would
I
my
talked to you
art be any
yesterday,
different?
man.
Yeah. It's like not every day is going to be I mean, every day is kind of a miracle in its own sense,
Hmm.
in a very unmiraculous way of like
Yeah.
ordinary, which is
But
kind of what parenting's all about. It's
yeah,
kind of what art's all about. It's kind of what everything's all about.
it really is, man. You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of how it works because there's so many times, whether it's in my spiritual walk, whether it's in my family, whether it's in my art, that I do something where I'm like, this one's not gonna hit. You know, or like I'd make a piece of art and I'm like, I'm not stoked on this one, but I'm just gonna put it out there because why not? Because I should put something out, so I'm gonna do it. And so I post a design that I'm not like super hyped on,
Yeah.
uh, and then it does better than any other piece I've ever posted.
That's
Or
exciting when
it's
that happens.
or it's like, you know what, man, I just need to get in the Bible because it's important. And I read scripture and I read it and I put it down and I'm like, well, I did it. And that's
Yeah.
all I got out of it, man. Like nothing. Like, yep, that's what that scripture said that day. And then like a week later, I'm talking with someone and I'm like, well, actually, the Bible says this. And like, and it's like from what I read a week ago, where I got nothing from it, but it was placed inside my heart. And like a week later, the perfect opportunity comes up where I'm able to encourage someone else with this scripture where like for me, that scripture didn't connect at all. But for them, they really needed that scripture. And luckily I took the time to read it, even though I got nothing out of it in that time. Or it's, you know, stuff like I'm sure you see this with your kids where you did something that meant that was like the dumbest thing or the nothingest thing, and your kid latched onto that with everything they had and will never forget it. You know, that it's like that was a monumental moment in their life, and you're like, I did nothing, dude. Like,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like, but if you don't show up, then nothing will ever happen. And it's yeah, man, showing up is key.
Um, what well, brief answer to this question. Do you have any scriptural backing for having such a mustache?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, next question, number 12A. Ready?
Yeah,
What has been your most like life-giving expression of Christian community, like
dude,
ever? In the
call,
past or currently,
yeah,
what has it been?
dude, calling all skaters and skate ministry, man, has
And
been,
why? Yeah.
yeah. Uh, when I went out to California and did stuff with calling all skaters, it was the number one thing I was looking for my entire life
Mm,
was
that's
people
crazy.
that were like me that loved Jesus and loved skateboarding. Like grew up my whole life loving skateboarding and loving Jesus, and didn't know another Christian that skated ever. You
Oh,
know,
you
like
didn't where you grew up?
yeah, yeah, just you know,
Oh, so that was like your entry into that?
for the most part, like
Like into
I
it as community?
yeah, yeah, like
Oh, wow,
uh
that's very formative if that was like your first experience into people who
like
skated who were also Christians.
Yeah, you know, like I said, grew up in this small town and I was about skateboarding. And a lot of the times it would be like, I'm really into skateboarding. And I had friends and I was like, you should skateboard too. And they'd be like, okay. And then they'd skate a little bit and then they'd fall off and like kind of not skate anymore. And then I was
Yeah,
like,
they'd fall
I'm
on
still,
concrete and they were
yeah.
smart like me and they're like, yeah, this hurts. I'm out.
Yeah. And, or they, yeah, they'd, people would just do other stuff. And, but I was like, always just, dude, this is in me and I have to do it. But the skate world is a very dark world. Um, like Thrasher is the #1 magazine in skateboarding, and their logo, besides like the traditional Thrasher logo that everyone sees, their like secondary logo, it's like their main thing, which is on everything of theirs, is literally a pentagram with a goat's head and 666 across the forehead. Like that's their logo.
They're
Like
being
in that,
super secretive.
yeah, no. And they're the #1 influencer in skateboarding. And like I'm not like super like I know that for maybe like half of that is just like we're rebels and we just want to be like shocking, like
Yeah.
they just want to be like, well, if the Main Street or like, if
Shock
my dad
value.
was a Christian, then I want to be the opposite,
Yeah.
like they just want to be rebellious.
Teenage rebellion.
But then there's also some people that are like, yep, I subscribe to that, dude. I'm about it. And
Like F everything.
yeah, and it's gnarly and it's really sad and depressing. And really a lot of people get into skateboarding because it's their only outlet. It's the only their life is horrible. They hate their family life. They hate everything about their life. No one likes them. And then they get into skating because it's a solo sport. You can do it by yourself and then you kind of find all these other people that are like, yeah, I got into it because I hate my dad too. And they're like, yeah, I hate my dad. Yeah, we all hate our dads. This is great, man. and
Yeah.
and but yeah, like kind of what I was saying though, for me, going out to California, meeting a bunch of other skateboarders that passionately love Jesus and passionately love skating, like set me up for such a good thing. And then like I felt called to come back to Indiana and offer that to people in Indiana. And that's what birthed Catch Wind, was like, I want I want to be able to share.
So wait, when did you go to Ventura County on that?
uh it
What,
was
how
like
many
the
years ago?
uh if I've been married for 6 years, maybe 7 years ago, or
Okay, so
seven
this
or
has
eight,
all
7 or
been
8.
going on for the last like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Now
And
it's like a
so,
little community in Indiana.
well, so not really. Like, so with skate ministry, I know almost all the people that do skate ministry almost in the world. Like, I'm sure there's a handful out there that I don't know
Well,
yet.
I got at least 3 friends that might be wanting to contact you off of this.
Yeah.
They're like
Like,
Christians who are like pretty big into skating.
yeah. And I'm sure that they're feeling like they're the only skateboarder out there that loves Jesus. and and they're like, I don't know, I go to the skate park and all I can talk to with other guys about is like, yo, did you see that video part? Yeah, man, that part was really sick. And you talk about skating and then they're like, hey, all right, we're gonna go to the bar, we're gonna go party, we're gonna go do whatever. And then you're like, awesome, dude, we'll see you there, man. And like, and you can kind of do whatever, go home or don't participate with them. And so you're just kind of, there's so many dudes out there that just like, the choice is either give into culture and do whatever those guys are doing, or follow Jesus and be alone. And that was me for the longest time, until I met Calling All Skaters, until uh, I started finding out that there was other guys that do skate ministry. And so um, now it's like some of my closest friends that are the most life-giving to me are like my friend Emmy that lives in Chicago. And like I don't get to see him physically very often, but we do a Zoom Bible study where he skates and I skate. And I met him through Calling All Skaters, and he does his skate ministry in Chicago. And I do kind of my skate ministry here, but more of Catch Wind is more of the traveling aspect of it. And so, and but everywhere we travel to is, I know someone in each of those cities that is at least a Christian that skates or is doing some kind of skate ministry. So that whole community has been the most life-giving to me, in a spiritual sense, just because like in the same way that like I don't know. I guess it's just like I'm used to getting kicked out of churches for skating them, you know. Like so, it's like even in the Christian faith, it's like I don't fit in as much.
Mhm.
Uh, but like it's like you don't fit in. You're too Christian for the skateboarders, and you're too secular for the Christians. Uh,
Yeah,
and so, but then when
just
you
by skating, you're saying practically.
yeah, time where I mean,
Yeah.
I was in like Nashville, Tennessee one year. It was like me and my wife just like on a little like anniversary trip or something. And like I it was I went like
And
we were just walking.
she ollied over the pulpit.
Yeah, basically. No, like we were just walking the streets and we were over by the river and there was a really cool skate spot over there. And so I was skating it and then I saw some other skaters and I met those skaters and got to like talk to them and tell them about Catch Wind and kind of what I do and like encourage those skaters. And then we like visited a friend of mine's church the next day for like Sunday service and it was kind of like a bigger church. And I was like telling like them like yeah like I was like talking to people their friends at that church. I was like yeah I met these skaters in the city and it was really sick and it was telling them about it and they're like oh yeah I guess those like river kids need Jesus too. And like it was just like so like underwhelming and like that
Bummer.
they it was like that their view of these human beings that need Jesus desperately, they just felt like it was like lesser to them. Like, yeah, they're not like they're not on the worship team, they're not in the youth group, so we don't really care. But it's like these kids are like all these kids do is go in the streets and skate. And it's like they need someone to tell them about Jesus, dude. Uh desperately. And so yeah, man.
Yeah. Um, do you have any particular books that have had an impact on your life or not so much because you're like mostly skating?
No, I mean, there's a season in my life, right before uh, so where I'm at right now, I work within a screen printing shop and I filter all my design work kind of through the shop. And so I'm on salary at this place and get paid through that. But right before that, the same guy that I work for now had a window washing business. And that sucked a lot, but you're just by yourself washing windows and you throw headphones in. And so I spent a lot of time listening to books in
Yeah.
that season of like, I wasn't fully able to start, like I was still doing freelance at that time, but, uh, but I was like, I'm going to listen to books. And so I listened to a lot of books. Um, I think in that season, I listened to some business books for a little bit because I was like starting Catch Wind and trying to
Yeah.
figure that stuff. So there was a few business books that I listened to that were like really helpful.
Any that stand out you can remember?
There was one called The Go Giver.
Oh
Uh,
wow, dude. That's
and,
crazy. Because
yeah.
I joined a guy who like does a meetup that's
Hmm.
called the Go Giver. They call it the Go Giver meetup because he gives out the book to anyone who goes to it.
Yeah.
And
So,
it's
I
like,
mean,
yeah,
like some of the stuff I was talking about earlier with like providing value for free to like that's like one of the principles of that book
mm,
is like you like okay you have a product, how can you give the consumer something even more than what they're paying for? Sure, they're going to pay $25 for a t-shirt, but if you can provide them with free value before they even buy a t-shirt, then like it's going to really draw them in to want to buy that shirt or whatever,
yeah,
and that's like what I'm talking about with like Instagram is like, I'm trying to provide value to someone for free. They don't have to pay to follow me. And so that was like a principle I got from that book. Really solid book. Um,
that's cool to hear.
and then as far as like Christian books, I um I don't know. I really appreciate a lot of C.S. Lewis's work, because I think he comes from that creative realm, that
Mhm.
he has like this deep theological stuff. But I think really a lot of his books, which is funny, the only ones I've really not read are like the Narnia ones. I've seen the movies, but like I was never Christian enough to like to read the Narnia books, I think, as a kid. Like, because that, like, I know that some kids, they're like, I'm not allowed to read Harry Potter, so my parents got me Narnia.
Yeah.
And so then they're like, all right, that's my option for mythological
Well,
adventure.
what's interesting for me is I was reading Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and the Voyage of the Dawn Treader
Hmm.
without knowing anything that there was any Christian themes or any Christian behind it.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed them as amazing books
Yeah.
when I was a kid.
Yeah.
In elementary school, like I remember the library where I
Hmm.
pulled them off the shelf. And then later in life, found out about C.S. Lewis and what he
Yeah.
was all about and how he had written so many like nonfiction books. And then
Hmm.
he had this children's fiction series. I'm like, oh wait, I read that and that.
Yeah.
So I learned about him from both directions, which is super
Dude, I
cool
love that, dude. And I
to
think
see how
that's
he
like,
impacted, like,
yeah.
because there's things I felt probably reading those that impacted me for life, but
Hmm.
I never really knew what it was.
Yeah,
And,
dude.
that was before Harry Potter existed. And
Yeah.
when I was in elementary school.
And dude,
So
that's just like
kind of
the
cool.
power of art, man. That's what I get
Yeah,
so hyped on it.
that's something I talked about on the first podcast with Kyle Ripley is like, what do you think is the thing with fiction? Some people don't even like fiction. Like my dad's generation, I wouldn't say
Yeah.
generation, but like some guys like my dad, like businessmen
Hmm.
from the 60s and 70s and
Yeah.
80s, they tend to be very pragmatic. Like
Yeah.
nonfiction matters, fiction does not matter.
Yeah.
And yet now I'm hearing like from fiction writers, like fiction is the best way to pack in way more
Well,
into
yeah.
a
Well,
story or a short story
I
that
mean,
you
that's
could
the
like,
key.
yeah,
Telling a story is gonna reach your soul. You're gonna connect with it, and you're gonna remember the principles from it. It's like,
and make
that's
people
why,
feel things.
yeah. And like like along with like spiritual stuff, like, why did Jesus use parables? Like, what are
Yeah,
parables? But it's
exactly.
stories.
That's
Yeah,
fiction.
yeah, it's art, man. He
Yeah.
Jesus was using art to reach other people. Like,
It was
and
his most powerful works was his parables, which are basically like short fictions,
yeah,
short
each one.
stories.
Yeah, man. And so, yeah, man, I love
But yeah,
that.
here's something interesting. So the place you live, like I asked you, you don't know who Wendell Berry is.
Uh-huh.
He's only 2 hours from you. So if you have any way to connect with him or his people or his like farm,
Does he have
they have like
Instagram?
an institute for Wendell Berry now. No, he's completely anti-technology.
Oh
So
no, dude, I'll never find him ever.
yeah, so he's this Christian writer who's like he's not super Christian, like he's not advertising
Yeah.
himself as a Christian, but he is a Christian. He goes to a little church in Port Royal, Kentucky, which is 2 hours south of you.
Hmm.
He is a farmer on like 100 acres. He is all about the environment and how their farms should impact the environment, like it's regenerative, sustainable
Yeah.
agriculture. And he's protested in the local city halls against like blowing the tops off of mountains for like coal.
Yeah.
He did a sit-in at like 80 years old, like a
Wow.
couple years ago. So he's just a cool guy. He has a rich, like, if you listen to the first podcast, like Kyle talked about, like he melds together like literature, ecology, environmentalism, and theology all in the same person.
Hmm. Is
It's
his
kind of,
farm like a place that you can visit?
I don't know, I don't think so, but I know they have like an institute there that his
Okay.
kids are running, but he's still there and he's still alive.
I feel like it'd be the kind of thing that, like, my wife, she's helped me grow in this area a lot. Is like, she really cares about just like natural products
Like
and
food and
and
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
locally sourced stuff, ethically sourced stuff.
yeah,
And like, I mean, we get raw milk delivered to our house all the time and that kind of thing.
yeah.
It's like,
He's all about it. Like you would
yeah.
dig all of his quotes. Like his quotes are crazy. But the thing is, he's written a bunch of fiction. So like all of his fiction is based in one town, which is based on his town, Port Royal, Kentucky.
Nice.
It's a fictional town based on his town. So it's like all these families, a whole family tree, 20 novels are based in this town by
Wow.
people's names. So it's
That's cool.
so to me, it's a fiction that really matters. Like I'm not saying like other fiction doesn't matter, but this is coming from a very deep guy, and this is how he chose to like convey messages.
Hmm.
And when I read my first book was called Jayber Crow, which is about the town's barber. And there's a few like paragraphs in that book that are like in me now.
Hmm.
Like they changed me.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
pretty
man.
powerful.
Something that like something that's cool about fiction is that when you read fiction, you read it in a specific way that you know that if something is mentioned, it's important, you know? Like it's not in there for no reason. And so if you see something show up at the beginning of the book and like when it comes back around later on, you're
Hmm.
like, oh, that's from before.
Yeah,
And
it's
like it's this really,
what they're
really
gonna
cool
get at.
thing.
Yeah.
And like something that I've been kind of learning about like the Bible and those kind of things is that the Bible does the same thing because it is like it's art. Like a lot of times, like a Western culture, like an American culture, we read the Bible as uh, as like a textbook of like this is how the world was created, this was how this happened, and this is how this happened. And it's like very like we like burn for it to be chronological, you know, like
Yeah.
it. And people get frustrated when they're like, wait a second, when did this happen and in which order? And it's like you're getting too caught up, man. But like and we see this so many times throughout scripture where something will pop back up within scripture, like a specific phrase or word, and it's like it's in there because playing off of the same format of a fiction novel. Not saying the Bible's fiction in any way, but I'm saying that like it's a cool thing to see that like has really been opening me up, where it's like when I see these like reoccurring passages or phrases in the Bible, I'm like, oh yeah, that's from before, that's from like
In comedy, that's called a callback.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And like I don't know.
In
It's
movies, it's like foreshadowing and
yeah.
whatever the opposite of foreshadowing is, calling back to the previous
Hmm.
flashback.
It's yeah. It's just art, man.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know. I like kind of what we've been talking about a bunch. It's like I I feel like when I stepped into like accepting that I was an artist, uh, you know, like I said earlier, like you know, I grew up. I'm not an artist. I don't know how to draw all this stuff. I'm not creative. Um, when I like accepted that like, oh, I am an artist, like I like draw stuff, I'm creative, I am these things, like it really like opened up my whole world. Like
Mm.
everything became so much more vibrant, everything became so much more beautiful and so much more intriguing that like nature was cool before, but now nature is like a literal piece of art that like that God created. Like he made like he
Yeah.
sculpted it. He made it like you know, even like just like the cliche stuff of like sunsets and mountains and these things. But it's just like,
Almost becomes like all of life is art.
yeah, it really is. And so like I look at my children, I look at my family, and like, dude, like it's all this creation. Like I when I think of the Lord, I think of a creator. I think of an artist that like it's just everything in my life has like blended into art. Like I look at skateboarding and like one of the reasons I love it so much is because it is such a stylistic, artistic thing. Uh like like in football, if you throw a pass that was like the ugliest pass that you could have ever thrown and it lands in the end zone, nobody cares. Like it, you got in the end zone. Like it doesn't matter if he barely caught it or like did it the wrong way or threw with his left hand for some random reason. Like, you know, whatever. If it gets there, you get the thumbs up, you get the point. In skateboarding,
It can
if
be
you
done
push,
ugly.
yeah, if you push the wrong way, people are like, I don't care about you at all. Like there's this guy, his name's Jeff DeCesare, and really, really good skateboarder. Can do more tricks than most guys out there, can do tricks that literally no one else can do. And he like nobody likes him because his style is whack. Because
He
like
doesn't do
he
it the way they want him to do it.
yeah, like
He's
and it's
sloppy.
just it just doesn't look good. Like he can go
I
like
kind of love
literally
that guy already. What's his
yeah,
name?
Jeff DeCesare, and like, and he also kind of has a little bit of the YouTube skate scene, and there's like negative connotation with skaters and YouTube and that stuff.
Gotta love
with that
that.
scene. But like
Gotta love the
really,
politics, right?
I know it. And
What's
I'm
his name?
more
I'm gonna
Jeff.
look him up right now.
Yeah, Jeff de Cesare. Uh, but like literally, like his style is like I'm gonna do a quadruple kickflip, like, and he's gonna do it down like a huge stair set. Nobody
I
can do a
love that.
quadruple kickflip down at like a 16 stair except for this guy. But like if you'd show a single kickflip down that 16 stair and then his quadruple kickflip, the majority would be like that single. If it was a kickflip that like popped, flicked, caught the board super high, and then just like stomped it perfectly, it'd be like, oh yes, dude, we love that. And then you see his, and he does this kickflip, and his feet are here, and his skateboard is like down here, and it's just like floating down, and it's like way separated, and then like the board hits the ground before he lands on it, which is like happens a lot with this guy. It's just like people are like, oh no, why would you do that? It's like because it just doesn't look good. It looks ugly.
Dude,
And
he's
it's
got a
like,
wild style.
yeah. And like I can appreciate it. I'm not too picky on stuff, and the Lord's humbled me in a lot of different ways where I can be like, hey man, that's his style. It's impressive. And I can also at times I'm like, oh sick, like he did a better trick this time. Like this one, he like caught the board after he did like the trick instead of letting it hit the ground and then land on it. Uh, but like it's art, man. Like skateboarding is such an artistic thing that like it's just like if you push and your push is whack, then people are gonna be like, oh, you're come on,
Not so
man. Like
much.
you should practice pushing and give up the quadruple kickflip. Like and just look cool while doing it. Like I love that like the clothing that you wear with skateboarding is not sports clothes at all. Like you're not wearing Under Armour, you're not wearing Dry Fit, you're wearing Dickies pants, and you're wearing a t-shirt that has like rips all over it, and it's like, dang dude, that looks sick.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and like I was just saying though, like everything is art to me these days, where and it's just grown, and it's so sick.
There's, I mean, all that, all those cultures, all those subcultures bring up a lot of pride too. It's like people who
Yeah,
think like they're the ish if they're more into it than you, or they're more this than
yeah,
you, or they're more that. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of frustrating for me because I'm a kind of sloppy guy. I'm not like technical
yeah,
about all that. So it's kind of like just okay, whatever, dude. You're
yeah,
cool. You're cool. I'm not. I get it.
yeah.
And
It
that's fine for me because like I'm a lot of people's friend, so I'm not like the pro at
mhm,
anything. That's why
yeah,
I have a podcast called The Generalist Father.
yeah,
So I don't have to be a pro at anything, and I'm kind of owning that.
mhm,
Although I am really good at art, so I need to kind of get back into owning that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm in a
and-
very similar category as well. Like
yeah,
I I I know that my style is not the sickest style in skating, and I know that I have little quirks where it's like, ooh, that I'm doing that not the way that is like the cool way to do it. Um, so I
yeah, but
definitely,
that's so subjective though with art,
yeah,
because this is a struggle for me is like with music. I do rap, I do hip hop,
hmm,
and I do like acoustic, like me trying to sing. And
yeah,
I've had this terrible fear of like, oh, people don't think I'm a very good singer, so I shouldn't sing.
hmm,
Yet, like I keep writing these songs that need to be sung, kind of like
yeah, dude.
soulfully, kind of like my voice is raspy and
You
I
got
sound like a
the Bob
partially,
Dylan.
yeah. Well, he's my encouragement. He's like, well, he
Yeah.
can't sing, so why can't I?
Yeah.
Well,
Have you listened to Andy Squires at all?
but a friend showed us, a very artistic friend showed me that guy.
I met him on the skate tour this past year.
My wife's friend Jill P showed me Andy Squares.
Dude, I so like I love it. He has like a couple albums that were like properly produced. My favorite album from him is the Poet Priest voice memos. He recorded the whole album on his iPhone. Uh he just hit
Oh
record
my
and
gosh, I love this already.
acoustically sang his songs.
That's how I do all my songs.
And I listen to it all the time, and like it's not good. It like it's what I tell people about Andy is like he's not your trendy Christian artist. like you're
Is he even
not gonna.
Christian at all? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, yeah, he is, dude.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
He likes to say that uh like he offers lamentation for Christians, that like there's not worship music out there that has lamentation in
Oh
it.
yeah, nice.
Uh, but the Bible
Which
has a book of lamentations in it.
which
So
I would say that's kind of similar to sorry, to Levi the poet. Have you
yeah,
heard of him?
I actually designed some art for him.
So yeah, he does
Yeah,
tons of lamentation and
yeah.
dealing with people that are feeling depression,
I
suicide
think
because he struggled with a lot of that, I'm sure.
I think I actually told Andy Squires about Levi the poet when I was hanging out with him. I was like, you should check out this dude, Levi the poet.
I gotta follow him again and make sure I'm following him because I know she showed me him like years ago and I don't think I
Yeah,
caught up on him.
he's
But
sick, dude.
anyways, but yeah, that feeling of like, oh, I'm not good enough to do this
Hmm.
thing. It's like, but then other people told me, I've had like so many people on the spectrum tell me different things. It's like some people are like, well, you're not that good of a singer, you shouldn't sing.
Yeah,
Or somebody could tell you you're not that good of an artist, you shouldn't do art or
yeah,
whatever. Then you have other people like, oh yeah, anyone can sing, anyone
yeah,
can do art, anyone can rap. I'm like, not really. I've heard
yeah.
people do all those things and it's not good. But I have heard Bob Dylan do it, and he's
Yeah.
not that good at
No, dude.
singing, but he's really good at songwriting and like capturing a moment and a vibe.
Dude,
And
my
and then
favorite.
somebody told me what recording was. Do you know what recording is? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And they're like,
Yeah.
the idea of a recording was capturing in the studio on analog what just happened in the studio.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow, that's such a cool way to think about it because it's not like, because these days everything's very, I mean, their
Like,
context of saying that was like everything's super produced.
yeah.
So you have a record producer telling you what to do. You have layers and layers and layers upon musicality being built up. But really what a recording was what like four people did in a studio like in the 70s
Hmm.
in 30 minutes
Yeah.
on
That's
a
sick.
record. And they called it a record.
Yeah.
And that is completely not spontaneous. They practiced, but like what was captured in that time was an energy, an execution of those songs and everything that was done in the way it was done in that moment,
Hmm.
which to me is very inspiring. When
Yeah.
it's overproduced, I mean, I basically don't make anything.
Hmm.
So for
Yeah.
me, spontaneity is very important for me to even be creative.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's pretty interesting for me to
it's
think about.
something it's something like I hear a lot of artists say, is like, well, like, and like they even say it with like pride, where they're like, well, I'm a perfectionist. Like they're like kind of like acting like it's a
Yeah,
bad
I'm
thing,
like,
but they're
no
like,
thanks.
well, I'm a perfectionist, so like I can't produce something unless it's perfect, or I can't. And that is
Yeah,
not
I
me
don't
at
like to hear
all.
that.
And I'm not a perfectionist out. Like I have certain standards where I'm like, no, like I want this to look good, but
Yeah,
but I like things to have a hand done feel to it. I like things
yeah,
to have some grit and some grain to it. And like I just never really get too caught up on things not being perfect. And
dude,
so
it's a killer because I had a friend. I have a friend. He's never going to listen to this podcast. He now is near Nashville because he's so drawn to that scene to be a perfectionist.
mhm,
He had his own studio in our town in California. And I'm like, dude, can you record me? Or can we do something? Or are you
yeah,
doing anything? I said, okay, you don't want to record me. You're too perfect, you're too much perfectionist for that, for my craziness.
mhm,
Are you recording anything? Are you doing any of your like worship music?
yeah,
No, I just haven't gotten around to it. I don't know. We're working on some songs, but they're not quite
yeah,
ready. 4 years later, have you recorded any of those songs yet? No, they're not quite ready yet. Like
yeah, man. And
we're
like
working on them. And I'm
it's
like,
like,
he had the studio
yeah,
for like, I'd say 7, 8 years before he moved away
mhm,
and recorded zero
yeah,
out of like
man.
a professional studio. He had a professional background. He was in a real band, like a real
And
country band. And he was a
how many
real sound
people,
engineer.
yeah,
And he
and
couldn't
how
record anything because he's too much a perfectionist.
yeah, and people are missing out on what you have to offer when you are so hung up on needing it to be perfect. Like I was
You're
saying, dude,
missing out. Yeah.
like some of my most successful pieces of art that I've posted have been pieces that I wasn't that hyped on, where I was like, I don't know if people are going to connect with it. It was something. it's not all the way great. And then someone's like, I just got that tattooed on me. And I'm like, what? Like, no, dude. like that wasn't very good.
That wasn't
Like,
done yet.
like that I remember early on like on my Instagram, I did this snake design. And I remember being like, man, not a great snake design. And then like someone messaged me with the picture of them having it tattooed on their arm. And I was like, oh shoot, dude. They got this like wonky snake tattooed on their arm. But like it meant something to them. And they connected
Yeah.
with it and like they were stoked on it. And I'm sure they still like that tattoo. And it's like, hey, dude, heck yeah, man. Like, if I wouldn't have posted that, that dude wouldn't have been impacted his whole life. You know, like whenever he looks at that tattoo, I'm sure it connects with him in some way. And like, if I would have got so hung up on myself, like other people miss out, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. Well, I really appreciate you being on here.
Yeah, dude, I know
I got
you're
one
probably
final
going for a long haul. So I'm
I
sorry
got
for
one
that.
final question for you. No, nothing to be sorry about. It's been great. But our last question for the books, for the annals of history is, what do you think is the most important? Now you got little ones, so this is an
Yeah.
interesting question for you. And you can think about your own father, you can think about yourself, what you want to be,
Mhm.
what you are pulling off at this point, or what you hope to pull off. What do you think is the most important attribute to being a good man, good father?
Yeah. That is a deep one. Most important attribute to be a good man, a good
Or what comes to
father.
mind as like what you hope to be when you think of your children looking at you?
Dude, I just hope that my kids are like, my dad really loved Jesus, you know? I mean, really that's really the only thing that matters to me. Is like, I mean, there's subtle things that like I want my kids to be like, dude, my dad is freaking sick. My dad can kickflip and your dad can't kickflip. Like, you know, like I want my kids to be hyped on those kind of things. And I want my kids to always look at me and think like, dude, my dad can do some really sick stuff and like I want to be like my dad. Um, but ultimately I hope that my kids are like, my dad loved Jesus more than anyone else I ever knew. And like that inspires them to follow the Lord. And I mean that's just the most important thing to me.
How would you say that relates to your love for them?
Dude, I mean it's really it's the source of everything. Like
Would you say it's
without
kind of one and the same, or how would it relate?
I mean it's just that without Jesus, I'm a bad father. Like sure, like you know, having children naturally you try to be more selfless, you know, but you can only be so selfless on your own strength.
Mhm.
And so the Lord enables me to be selfless, to tend to my kids, to take care of them, to instead of getting super frustrated when they just won't listen to you, you know, and you're
Mhm.
like, son, this is detrimental to your life, or this is detrimental to your brother's life. Like you are punching him in the head.
Don't kill your brother.
Yeah, and it's like, "No, I want to." And I'm like, "No, dude." Like,
Don't
they just
stab
won't
your
get
brother,
it.
bro.
Yeah, and like, instead of getting so frustrated, like, the Lord enables me to have grace and patience, because without that, I would not have that. Like, all the stuff that He's, like, built up in me that I'm able to move with grace and patience towards them.
What in that context, what would you say to me when I see an unbeliever who's a father who's showing better patience and grace to his children than I am
Yeah. I
as
mean,
a Christian, who's like, I'm praying, I'm knowing the Lord, I'm praying for grace and patience.
yeah, dude, I think that's just the goodness of God in that man in that person's life. Yeah, like there's biblical principles in the world that it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not. If you obey these principles, you're going to reap the benefits of them. Uh, like,
Like
and
common
so
grace.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
so like I think it's something where you could go to that person and be able to encourage them in what they're doing and say like, hey, man, like I see that you are an excellent father and that you are showing up for your kids and like you may not know this but you're representing the heart of God through
Mm.
your children and being able
Good
to share
word,
that
brother.
and encourage them with that,
That's really good word.
that like,
Because I've definitely had that twice in my life for sure, where I felt like guys were outdoing me, and I'm like, how is this happening? Because I know the Lord.
yeah.
And these guys are better fathers than me. The way they treat their kids, less anger, less
Hmm.
impatience, less like snappiness, and it's been
Yeah.
convicting at times where I'm like, oh, almost feel like I have nothing to offer them. And that's a funny thing. Like Christians think they have something better to offer people. It's
Hmm.
like that's not the point.
Yeah, dude.
They might be better than you at this. That's not the point. Being better at it is not the point. The
Yeah.
better thing is that it's the goodness of God, like
Yeah,
you said.
man. Yeah,
Whether
dude.
it's in them or me, it's the goodness of God.
Yeah. No matter what, man, we all blow it. We all fall short, man. And so, like, there's always going to be a better artist. There's always going to be a better father, a better husband, a better whatever, man. But like, it's like being able to like look at things objectively and be stoked on other people's successes, and you know, being hyped on that kind of thing is going to really like, yeah, lead people to Jesus if you're encouraging others instead of, just being down on yourself or down on others, to like, oh, they're not a Christian, they shouldn't be like that, or whatever,
Yeah,
you know.
or the idea of like the opposite of social media, like the way you've used social media has been to encourage others.
Yeah.
For many people, their experience is just feeling discouraged from envy.
Yeah, or like feeling the need to flex on others or something like that, to like, I need to show people how cool I am so that people will respect me,
Try to
or
validate
whatever.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But envy is a strong one because you just see what other people's lives look like on
Yeah.
Instagram, and it's like an
Hmm.
insta perfect life, and it's like, wow, I
Yeah.
suck, or wow,
Yeah.
we're not doing anything fun, or we're not going anywhere cool, or whatever,
Hmm.
It's like that's
Yeah.
what can happen from Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely felt that, like, on both sides of it. I've had people be like, dang, Cory, you're killing it in skate ministry or whatever. And I'm like, really? I do like a 2-week tour a year, and the rest of the year I don't really have any big events or anything. And I like look at my friends and I'm like, dude, he's freaking out doing a barbecue at the skate park every week. Like, this dude's reaching his community. This guy's impacting people. And, like, and but then it's
Comparison.
like, yeah, it's that back and forth
Yeah.
where, yeah.
Well, cool, man. Thank you so much for being on. And I really appreciate hearing about your ministry, your art, your family,
Hmm.
your Indiana
Yeah, man.
landscape.
Well,
It's been
dude,
good,
yeah,
man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Thanks for
So
everyone
when
that
people
made
want to
it.
find, oh, sorry, I cut you off.
I just say thanks for everyone that made it this far into the podcast.
Yeah, yeah. And so if anybody wants to keep finding you, I think you mentioned in the middle, but you could just name those handles
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. You can follow me on my main Instagram account, Cory Romeiser. You can follow Catch Wind, which is our clothing brand, my clothing brand that I run, which is also a ministry. Uh, you can follow my new tattoo account, where I'm posting tattoos that I do and a bunch of traditional tattoo flash. Uh, uh, and that's Cory Romeiser Tattoo. And you can follow the screen printing company that I work for, called Golden Press Studio, which I take all the
Golden Press
photos for.
Studio.
Yeah, Golden Press Studio. I take all the photos for that. And then, my designs pop up on a bunch of shirts there. And yeah, really awesome, cool shop, doing awesome stuff. And so there you go, man.
Sweet,
That's
man.
it.
I'm sure some of these skaters are going to hit you up
Dude,
on the
please
catch
do.
wind.
For real. For real. The requirements to come on the skate tours are your skill level is, you need to be able to push down the road and not get left behind. Because if you can't hop up a curb, I don't know these cities very well and we'll lose you. And but like,
No, the
sorry.
guys I know, they're like semi-pro, basically.
Yeah.
The guys
Uh,
I'm talking about.
and then you have to be slightly interested in Jesus, because it may not be fun for you when we're doing Bible studies in the morning. But
Yeah. I got one buddy, he's in California. He's like crushing pools with his mullet right now.
what's his
And
name?
um Dominic De Palma.
I think I know who that is.
He,
Yeah, you
yeah,
said
so
he has
if
a
you were
mullet
doing,
and he rips like crazy.
well, now he does. He didn't always have a mullet, but he does lately.
Yeah, I think he does stuff with mess halls, I think.
I don't
which
know.
is
He
like
does
a
a lot of pool
Zoom.
stuff lately.
Yeah, that's sick.
And the best part about him is every year for Christmas, he does a Christmas card and a Speedo, a red
Uh,
Speedo,
That's amazing.
and sends it to everyone. So they all have to, all of us have to see him. Well, I don't get sent it, but friends I have get sent it, and they get to see an awkward picture of him in a Speedo,
Yeah,
which is not something you get to see of most of your friends usually.
yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
heck
it's
yeah,
pretty
dude.
epic.
Well, it sounds like my children have awoken and they're fairly upset. So I
All
need to
right, man. Have a
gotta
good night.
roll.
Thank you for being on here.
Yeah, man. We'll see you there
Take care. Bye bye.
later.